Hello everyone, this is a new episode of the Global Judicial Integrity Network podcast series. We're here today with Chief Justice Đuro Sessa, the Chief Justice of Croatia. We'll be talking to him about judicial appointments. Thank you so much, Justice Sessa, for being here with us. To start our episode, could you please briefly tell us about your background?
I am now for 2 years Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Republic of Croatia, and all my professional career actually I was in judiciary from the beginning to the passing all the steps. Beside that, in domestic judiciary, I hold the position of the Vice President of the High Judicial Council in one term, and I have some activities internationally. I was a member of the CCGA from its beginning, and now I'm president. This year my term will end, and I was involved in a work of International Association of Judges, and now I'm one of the 6 vice presidents.
And now we're also very happy that you have an additional hat, which is of the member of the advisory board of the Global Judicial Integrity Network.
Thank you, which is a pleasure.
So to start our conversation about judicial appointments, we wanted to speak with you about good practices in appointing judges. So how can countries ensure systematically that judges are hired solely based upon their qualifications and, for example, not for political reasons?
That is a crucial question of any judiciary, how the judges are appointed. In the view of the CCGA, in looking in the European context, we are promoting that judges are appointed without any influence of the politics by the High Judicial Council, and to have that body, that body has to have its integrity. So it has to be structured in a way that it is secured in an organizational way. So the standards are speaking that at least one half of the judges should be members should be judges appointed by the judges, and the other members would represent society, but also from the independent law professions like professors of law or lawyers or former members of the courts. Whenever the Judicial Council makes some major mistakes or their decisions are not seen as impartial and based on merit, it causes discussions and problems in the country. So to protect that concept, it is very important that the members of the council are those members who can protect the independence of judiciary in full extent.
As an additional layer to
As an
protection.
additional layer, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And the Council of Europe suggests, and I quote, that new democracies need constitutional provisions as a safeguard against politicization. Would you agree with this suggestion?
Yes, I would. I was also involved in drafting the opinion. The idea beside this sentence is that in the countries with, let's say, not so long democratic tradition, with not so long system of separation of powers, with independent institutions, with the public, which is aware of importance of independent judiciary, it is very important to have those standards set up in the constitution or the laws of the highest level, which will be very difficult to change. And that is the starting point. Of course, building an institution is not only putting it in the law.
And has Croatia improved the transparency of its appointment process? And what would you recommend to other countries undergoing similar reforms?
Regarding the experience of Croatia, we also, of course, had ups and downs. But now, in the process of entering EU, we put up the standards which are in accordance with the European standards and the standards of the Council of Europe. We also established the side supporting initiatives. So we have this at least as objective as possible evaluation of the candidates. The work of the council is completely open, so the interviews with the candidates, the decisions of the council are open to the public. There is a website. There is judicial control, or better to say, constitutional judicial control. So we are trying to make it as public as possible, and the composition is also somehow in line with the standards. It is composed of 7 judges elected by the judges, 2 members of the parliament, always one from the position and one from the opposition, and 2 professors of law. And each of those professions or circles are appointing or electing their own members. So the judges have a majority, but also the voice of public and voice of other professions is heard. And it is set up in the Constitution as the main rules of the Council are in the Constitution.
Yeah. And the Consultative Council of European Judges, the CCJE, recommends in its opinion 18 that an independent authority should participate in the appointment of judges. And how do you envisage this authority to be? Would a judicial council, for instance, satisfy this role in every case, or are there other options as well?
There are always other options, but for the time being now, I think the councils, if they will fulfill that role, to be independent, to be with integrity, and to stay behind their decisions and to be aware of their role, that is the best solution for appointing. Of course, there is always a possibility that council will have only advisory role, so that some other body will make the final decision. But then it is very important that this body, or the President of the Republic, or the Parliament, or whatever, will follow those suggestions of the independent body. So it is not always essential that the body makes the final decision, but that those recommendations are followed. And I think that's there are only few countries now not having the councils, and they are thinking to have it or planning to have it. But again, there are some traditions which work fine in the countries, and they serve the purpose to have independent and impartial judges. And then if that is the case, then the councils are not necessary.
As long as the independence of the judges is maintained and the autonomy in the process is protected, then that would already be a good scenario.
And I think what is very important is that it is not only upon the judges to protect their independence, because it is not for them, it is for the citizens. And so those who are really politicians should be very aware of these very sensitive issues, and not to make any move to diminish the independence.
And what qualities should a judicial council member have, and how should they be selected?
Regarding selection, I think the best way is that they are elected by their peers. And also it is very important to have the good candidates, and for judges to know who are the candidates and how they, so to have experienced judges who are well posted in their communities, not to serve their own ambition, but to serve the judges. That is the essence of having such a system. And if it doesn't work, that is a warning to all judiciaries who have the same system. If it will not work, the politics will take it over, because they can always take an argument: we gave you the system, you can't use it properly, we are going to take care about it.
Yeah, that's very true. And what concerns arise when there are doubts about the judicial appointment process? You've already touched upon this briefly, but maybe there are other aspects.
Judicial appointments are a very sensitive issue, of course, because it is always more candidates than posts. It is not only important to have the good members of the council, but also to have the system which will evaluate the candidates properly and objectively, taking care about their career, their abilities, knowledge, so that those who are the best will be promoted. For entering the profession, it is also important to have all these mechanisms to see how the candidates can fulfill this difficult task. It is not easy. A lot of countries are taking possibility to introduce this kind of point system. Some are having less formal evaluation. I think the best is to have combination of both. Less informal evaluations through interviews, through possibility to candidate to present himself or herself, and to have some kind of pre-evaluation through the point system.
And it's always good for candidates and for the public in general that there is some predictability as to the criteria and the process through which the judges will be appointed.
And one issue is also very important, to have independent judicial control upon the decisions of the council. Sometimes it can be the Supreme Court or the special panel of the Supreme Court. Sometimes it can be Constitutional Court, but the judicial control over the decisions, independent is very important, so that also the council knows that their decisions can be checked and scrutinized by the independent body.
Good. Thank you very much for your time, Chief Justice. This was a very interesting episode. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. For everyone listening, this was another episode of the Global Judicial Integrity Network podcast series. Stay tuned for more episodes on emerging and challenging topics on judicial integrity.